Nathan, Nathaniel.
Just the first in line, he struggled to stay in school, but still finished on time. One of the brilliant minds was hearing the negativity. He persevered, like the theory of relativity. Dr. Seuss wrote a book and got rejected 28 times before being accepted. So means the books all over the world and still being read by little boys and girls. Steven Spielberg fell because of bad grades, and his movie flopped despite the goons he made. He could have called it quits just to fold under pressure. He didn't give up, now he's a famous director. Walt Disney Road wasn't easy. He was bankrupt, I know it's hard to believe. He had that back that went quickly south. He got a breakthrough and named Mickey Mouse. And like that, you just give up. A challenge may come, you just get up. Sometimes you may fail, inhale, exhale. No, you can exhale if you never give up. If life knocks you down, you just get up. A challenge may come, you just get up. Sometimes you may fail, inhale, exhale. No, you can exhale, never give up. Oprah Winfrey struggled, she didn't grow up with a lot. She failed multiple times, stayed focused on the top. She went from news anchor and fired by the producer. Now a household name, super bright future. Michael Jordan, JB on the high school team. He didn't quit and go on to try new things. He stuck with it and put very much in it. When he wanted to quit, he kept pushing, he must finish. So he worked hard and he trained a lot, so he can be great when he rained his shots. He never gave up and he ran with his dream. Now he's the best ever, the championship ring. Just know you can persevere, have faith, and reverse the fear. The most famous people once failed in life, but they kept going and did well in life. If life knocks you down, you just give up. A challenge may come, you just get up. Sometimes you may fail, inhale, exhale. No, you can exhale if you never give up. If life knocks you down, you just get up. A challenge may come, you just get up. Sometimes you may fail, inhale, exhale. No, you can exhale if you never give up.
All right, all right. All right, Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, who else? Steven Spielberg, movie producer, guy made billions of dollars making movies. All of those people in that song, you know, are very, very, very successful. But at one time, guess what? They failed. They failed. Most of them failed multiple times. You know, but yet and still, they didn't stay down. They kept getting up. Every time somebody turned them down, every time somebody gave them negative feedback, they kept going. They kept going. Okay, and that's the same thing that we have to do. If you want to be successful, if you want to get to your level of success, you're going to have to learn how to keep getting back up, keep grinding, and keep going despite a lot of the negativities that you will have. Okay, the last part of this series, Leaving Legacies, Breaking the Disconnect Between Parents and Millennials, by Glendora Devine. So today we're just going to talk about the last two types of parents that she has and that she talks about in her book. The permissive parenting and the uninvolved parenting. And we're going to talk about that just for a few minutes to see what it looks like. Now, when we talk about the permissive parenting, these are some of the things that you will see or you would recognize and know in parents that are permissive. The first thing is parents routinely do for children what they could do for themselves. Things like cleaning their room and doing laundry. How many in here clean your own room? By raising your hand, how many clean your own room? Okay. How many do your own laundry? Okay. All right. Now, with permissive parents will do those things for their children, to the most part. Things that you can be doing that teach you the value of hard work, teach you responsibility. Parents that are permissive normally takes over those chores and do them for the kids. Parents become enablers due to their inability to set clear guidelines. So you can become, as a parent, we can become enablers because, you know, we continue to do things that are meant to teach you how to be good citizens, okay? And when we do everything for you, that means that you are not learning, you know, some of the things that you need to learn. And some of you guys will see some of these aspects in your own life. Yes, Janet, you had a question?
I had a question. If you don't listen, you can't learn that way. But if you do listen and pay attention to your teacher, you get to the next grade.
Right. But these are some of the things that you typically see in parents that use the permissive learning style. They typically don't set standards for their children as they develop. And we know when we talk about authoritative parents, that's one of the things that distinguish them is because they do set clear guidelines and rules for their kids to go by. But parents that are permissive, they don't typically set those rules and guidelines for their children to go by, and so they don't develop the way that one would want them to. They are more agreeable and accepting of the child's behavior instead of shaping values and desired behaviors in their children. So they basically agree and that they accept most of the things that their kids are doing. Okay, and so again, all of this can hamper, prevent the child from developing in a way that is productive. Okay, when the children display negative impulses, actions, or undesired behaviors, permissive parents are more likely to blame others for the child's actions as opposed to holding them accountable and searching for areas where they can improve. Permissive parents, I see that a lot, especially dealing with, my expertise is working with students with emotional behavior disorders. And I have parents all the time coming, when the kid gets in trouble, the parent comes to the teacher as though we did something wrong. And that's what permissive parents do. They blame everybody else for their children not doing the things that they need to do instead of helping them to learn how to take responsibility. Okay? Because guess what? Eventually, you're going to have to take responsibility for yourself. And if you don't know how to do that now, while you're young, you're going to have a hard time developing that ability to do so. Okay? So, that's another thing that this type of parent will have. Their children struggle. They struggle to be the children role models for long-term benefits it brings. Okay, so that's another thing that actually happens is they struggle to be those role models because again they don't set limits for you. Okay, they don't set those guidelines and standards that you guys need to live by. And so, a lot of times we don't respect them as our role models like we should. Okay? And then they tend to be overprotective. Okay? They tend to be overprotective and not allow you to fail. Okay? And that's one of the things that we have to do. We always talk about that in here, is that failure is okay as long as we do what? Yes.
Try best.
Yeah, as long as we're trying, okay, and we learn from those mistakes and those failures. Because again, the song I just played talks about Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, Steven Spielberg. All of these people failed. And a lot of times they failed multiple times, but they still ended up being successful. Okay, so you'll have that. Sometimes they tend to be overprotective. They only become involved when a serious issue arises. Court, getting in trouble or something like that. Okay, that's what you will see in permissive parents. They only show up when you get in trouble. Okay, they don't show up when you have a game. Okay, but they'll show up when you get in trouble. They don't show up when you win an award, but they show up when you get in trouble. Okay, so these are some aspects of permissive parents. And as a result of these things, their children place themselves in a position of control. And so those type of parents will constantly end up being in some type of power struggle with their kids. And we talked about that power struggle just the other day. We don't want to get into power struggles with kids, because it's just not a healthy thing for us to do. Kids start to recognize, that they can get out of stuff. We have kids that want to avoid doing work. We got kids that want to get kicked out of class because they don't want to do work. And when we get into power struggles with them, they do things because they know that you're going to react. Okay? Another thing, children who are made, hold on, let me turn that off. Children who are not made to understand no means no often throw tantrums, storm off, or become loud and demanding. Okay? And these are kids like when you're in the store, when the parent, instead of them just telling the kid no and meaning the word no, they try to negotiate and bargain with their kids. Okay? And see, that when you get to that kind of situation, Janet, LaCayla, when you get to that kind of situation, that means a lot of things have not happened beforehand. Okay? So, and that's when you start to bargain with your kids. Anybody ever seen a situation like that where you got a little kid in the store and they start having a tantrum and yelling at their parents and stuff like that? Yep, you seen it? Yeah. Right. Well, see, your parent dealt with it. But a lot of parents try to bargain with the kids to get them to stop doing that, and the kid keeps doing the tantrum. And that's because they've been permissive with those kids. Okay? So that's the danger of being a permissive parent, because your children will embarrass you. Life lessons that should be learned in healthy ways from failure or loss due to parents hindering their children from experiencing hurtful emotions. Things like disappointment, embarrassment, shock. All of these things are learned from us experiencing those things. And if we don't learn how to experience those things, we're in trouble. Okay? That's what I say about, in life with kids. Sometimes we cause, as parents, our kids to fail, and not learn some of the things and values and things that they need in life. We don't let them do that, because when you make mistakes, you have a consequence. And sometimes as parents, we don't want our kids to face those consequences. And so we try to step in and help them, get them out of things. Okay? That's what permissive parents do. They try to get their kids out of things. They don't want their kids to experience that hurt. And because they don't let them experience those things, guess what? They never learn how to deal with things like disappointment, disappointment. They don't never learn how to deal with that. Embarrassment, shock. These basic things that are going to happen in life, and most people are able to get up and move on from. People from, most of these kids that come from permissive parents, they can't move on from those things. Okay? All right? It's a little bit more difficult for them to move on. And these kids, they consistently, when the parent consistently overprotect their children, these children tend to become very needy, and they don't socialize well with age-appropriate peers. Okay? They become needy. And being able to communicate with others becomes very, very difficult. When your parent is overprotected, dealing with relationship with other people becomes very, very difficult. Okay? And children may become antisocial, unruly, disruptive, and unable to complete tasks in a timely manner. Okay? Antisocial. Don't deal with anybody else. Always to themselves. Unruly. We know what that is, a disruptive. Okay, we see that all the time. And because of this, they can be labeled as oppositional defiant, ADD, ADHD, conduct disorders. All of those things a lot of times come from permissive parents. You know, even EBD, emotional behavior disorder, some of those things come from this type of parenting too, when kids are labeled as emotional behavior disorder. Okay? And the last thing, the last one is the uninvolved parent. Uninvolved parent. The uninvolved parent is, you know, obviously they're not involved in the child's life, physically, spiritually, mentally, or emotionally. Okay? So it's not just, we know we have the deadbeats, the parents that are just not there. And it's not just always the dad now. Sometimes the mom. Dad has custody and the mom is not there. Okay? Physically. Okay? And because of that, you know, it hurts the kids as well. But it doesn't mean just physical. Because you can be absent emotionally for your children. You can be absent spiritually for your children. You can be absent mentally for your kids. You can be there and not pay attention to them. You can be there and not listen to them when they have issues. You can be there and not support them when they have things going on, basketball games and things like that. You can be there and still be uninvolved. Okay? And that's how some parents are. They're uninvolved. They're often not focused on the process of parenting. Okay? Because parenting is work, is a process. It's a job within itself. Is it a hard job? Yes. It is a hard job. But if we want our kids to become better, if we want to change the way our society is now, you know, it starts at home and it starts with how we bring and raise our kids. Okay? Almost done here. As a result of uninvolved parents, communication channels are typically non-existent because the uninvolved parent doesn't establish that stability in their life. Children struggle to find their identity. They don't know who they are. They suffer in school academically. Hey, they tend to not do as well. And they're attached to negative social influences like gangs and inappropriate social media things. You know, they're attached to those kind of things, all right, when the parent is not there. And they have relationship problems and issues. Okay? We typically see relationship problems because they never learn. We learn how to deal with relationships by who? Our parent. And when our parents don't develop that relationship with us and teach us those skills, guess what? It hurts us when we try to develop relationship and have a relationship with others. Okay?